Hello everybody, welcome to Calls. This is the 2023 Travelers Championship DFS Tactics show. We have a lot to get into. We are here for all of your last minute questions, your pivots, your fades, all of your wager questions that you have, forecast, any wave preference, and anything else that you want to discuss for the Travelers. I am quite excited as we have been building some momentum the past month here on the channel. A lot of the community has had a lot of success. I myself took a little bit of a step back last week, but still had enough things right to not make it a disaster of a week. So we're going to try to continue the upward trend that we have been on lately. So let's get into it. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from fantasynational.com. It is the best tool out there for your money. It's going to make you a much smarter golf gambler and a much better golf DFS player. Go check them out. It is simply well worth your investment. In the description to the video, there are links to all of the social media. First off, my Twitter and Instagram, where I post research weekly for the PGA Tour. I usually try to have that out by Monday afternoon. So if you would like to see the research that I find through the week and weekend for the upcoming tournaments, then give me a follow at your preferred social media site. Twitter is also where I place my betting cards, and that will be no different. That'll be out after the DFS Tactics show this evening. So if you want to see my betting cards, give me a follow over at Twitter. And then Twitter is also where I do my daily baseball content. 3 players that I think will accrue their value, 3 players that I don't. I've had a few days off here. It's been pretty busy with the U.S. Open, and then I hit the Travelers pretty hard through the weekend, and plus my own baseball season starting up and whatnot. So I'm going to try to get back into the baseball content. So if you'd like to see that, give me a follow over at Twitter as well. And then finally, for social media, Gabe's Twitter is in the description as well. Highly suggest you give him a follow and subscribe to his article called The Fringe on Substack. It is a very good read, great way to start your week of preparation. And a reminder, since this is Wednesday evening, I will be in Gabe's Superstack chat after the DFS Tactics show tonight. So if you want to continue the DFS talk after my show, then jump on over to Gabe's chat and continue the discussion over there. And then finally, for this intro, we are live. Chat's open. Again, I want to hear from you all. What kind of wagers have you made for the Travelers? Who are your pivots? Who are you fading away from and pivoting to? What do you think of the players that played at the U.S. Open and then traveling cross country this week? Are you going to be using any of them? Are you going to be fading any of them or all of them because of the travel? Who do you think has the upper hand here at TPC River Highlands? All of that stuff. So let's figure out our strategies and our tactics for the 2023 Travelers Championship. And we start, as we always do, on a Wednesday evening. If I can get the camera to focus, I'm hoping that'll focus in here. It might be better viewing for your end. If it doesn't focus, we'll figure something out. But I do want to make a mention that longtime viewer and subscriber P messaged me after the show on Monday, letting me know that chat didn't work or wasn't working. So I apologize for that. I'm hoping I have that fixed. Hey P, good evening. So chat is working. Glad to see that. Glad you could make it. Hopefully you are ready for the Travelers and all that good stuff. But thanks for jumping in chat, and thanks for letting me know Monday that chat wasn't working. I don't know why my camera is not focused. This is gonna bother me. But welcome to Doug Gim week. Well, I don't know about that. It's certainly I have a lot of interesting. A lot of interesting thoughts for the Travelers this week, but I don't know if I'm there with Doug Gim, but we'll get into that. There we go. Finally, it focuses. I don't know. But thanks for jumping in, Chat P. Always good to see you. So we're going to start over at Windfinder. And this forecast has changed quite a bit, even from Monday evening's show. In fact, there was just a little bit of wind in the forecast on Monday evening's show. You see that there is quite a bit of wind now, especially in terms of wind gusts for tomorrow and Friday. Now, it looks like there is a rain system coming in to Cromwell, Connecticut early tomorrow afternoon, maybe tomorrow evening. You see, as per usual, the morning has the lower sustained winds, but they are dealing with some gusty winds. And then the afternoon it picks up with gusts near 30. And then on Friday, the entire afternoon wave is dealing with basically similar conditions that all of Thursday is dealing with. You see, Friday morning is dealing with very, very little wind. So I'm going to say how I would phrase this. Me, personally, I'm not taking any wave consideration into my thought process and my lineups and my rankings. It just looks like it's going to be a gusty tournament. It's going to be a little bit chilly tomorrow. It's supposed to go warm up Friday and then into the weekend, excuse me. But I'm not doing anything with wave advantages or anything like that. However, I can understand the argument that if you want to focus players that are the earliest of early tee times Friday, they look like they have the best wind forecast of the cut portion of the tournament, as they have no wind on Friday morning. And I'm talking the earliest of early tee times Friday morning. Some of your your first few groups off will have the advantage. I didn't bring up the leaderboard. I don't have the tee times. If you are seeing that as enough of an advantage that you want to factor that in, then I would suggest you go check out pgatour.com/leaderboard and figure out who the Friday morning, early morning tee times are. Like I said, myself, I'm not doing that. I just think it's going to be gusty and windy for everybody. And with all this rain, if you are playing that Friday morning advantage and Friday morning gets pushed back or delayed, that really that diminishes that entire advantage that you were setting up for. So I think personally it's too much risk. But if you are willing to take that chance at no delay and Friday morning, the early wave, the really, really early wave, having that advantage, I can understand the argument to it. But I'm not going to be willing to take that risk. So there's a look at the forecast, super forecast for Thursday and Friday. If we zoom out, look at Saturday and Sunday. We don't have the super forecast for the weekend. It's too far away. But Saturday looks much the same, perhaps a little bit of rain, but windy, gusty in the afternoon. And then Sunday looks relatively benign, depending on what this looking like scattered rain showers do. But for our purposes, trying to get 6 of 6 through for the cuts, I am not playing any kind of wave advantage. And there is Thursday and Friday's wind for you one last time. So with that, let's go ahead and move to Fantasy National. And I have went ahead and set the filter to moderate and windy conditions, since at least it appears it's at least going to be gusty. Perhaps the sustained winds aren't there, but at least the gusts appear to be. So in moderate and windy conditions, going back to the beginning of 2022, I think we are far enough along in 2023 now that we can just go back to the beginning of 2022 instead of all the way back to 2021. So in the past year and a half, roughly. Your top players in moderate and windy conditions have been Justin Thomas, Sung Jae, Tony Finau, Scotty Scheffler, Matt Fitzpatrick, Rory, Jon Rahm, Xander, Keegan Bradley, and Shane Lowry. Moving on down just a little bit, the next maybe 5 or 10 or so, Max Homa, Billy Horschel, Cam Young, Sahith Theegala, Tom Hoge. There's your top 15, and you can see the top 30 or so there in terms of windy conditions and the best players in the windy conditions in the past year and a half or so. The other side of the spectrum, players who have not played well in the wind the past 18 months. Andrew Landry, Nick Watney, Jim Herman, Max McGreevy, Dylan Wu, who has been fairly popular from what I have gathered, and we'll see later on when we go to the price boards. Brian Gay, Jason Duffner, Richie Wierenski, Jimmy Walker, Ryan Brim, Harris English, although I would put an asterisk with this as he was hurt last year. Clearly his top 10 at the U.S. Open is showing that he is at least more healthy than he was last year. He's starting to get his game back. So I would put that one with a little bit of asterisk considering he was hurt last year. But he didn't play well in the wind for what it's worth. Kevin Tway, Marty Laird, and so on down about the bottom 30 or so. You can see there, those are the players that aren't or have not been good in the wind the past 18 months. Before we go to the mixed condition model, a couple of quick hitting reviews here, just on some total performance on some of these filters. We are on a Pete Dye course, so your top total performers on Pete Dye courses, and you see I'm going to have to more than likely expand the timeline here since we only have 24 rounds the most. So I am going to go back to 2021 for this filter just so that players have enough rounds. We have up to 40 now with Brian Harman. Most players have at least a decent amount, a handful into the teens in terms of the amount of rounds. So your top total performers on Pete Dye designs in the past 2.5 years. Sung Jae, Scotty Scheffler, Brian Harman, Patrick Cantlay, Corey Connors, Xander, Shane Lowry, Matt Fitzpatrick, Colin Morikawa, Tony Finau, and Jon Rahm. And I'll scroll down here to about the top 25 or so. I'll let you see that list of your top players on Pete Dye designs the past 2.5 years. And then the other end of the spectrum, players that haven't played well on Pete Dye designs: Nick Watney, Ryan Brim, Cameron Champ, Brian Gay, Davis Riley, Lucas Herbert, Jim Herman, Bo Hostler, Will Gordon, Richie Wierenski, and so on down. So there's a list of your players that haven't played well on Pete Dye designs. And then finally, I'm going to bring this again back into the beginning of 2022. We're on a short course. TPC River Highlands is only 6,852 yards, at least on the official scorecard, coming nowhere close to the 7,200 threshold that would require it to be a medium length course or average length. So your top players on short courses the past 18 months: Patrick Cantlay, Xander, Russell Henley, Seamus Power, Brian Harman, JT Poston, Scotty Scheffler, Matt Fitzpatrick, Ben Griffin, and Keegan Bradley. Again, scrolling down to about the top 25 or so there for you. Get a list of those names, total performance on short courses. Then the other end of the spectrum, players who haven't played short courses well: Richie Wierenski, Ryan Brim, Andrew Landry. Those three I think have been there on all three of these total performances reviews. Cameron Champ, Max McGreevy, Chad Ramey, Kevin Streelman, who has not played short courses well, Matt Wallace, Paul Haley, Jason Duffner, Nick Watney, Austin Smotherman, and so on down. These players haven't played short courses well. All right, with that, Normally, I would go to my mixed condition model. There's one thing that I want to show before we do. And it's only because I myself had to find this in my research as I was prepping my lineups and whatnot. Michael Thorbjornsen, for whatever reason, has 2 entries in Fantasy National. And you see this entry doesn't have any data. But he has played. I mean, he played last week at the U.S. Open. He finished solo 4th here at the Travelers last year. So he's been on the PGA Tour. This is just one of those things that happens when you are taking care of a big database like Fantasy National is. You can get duplicate entries, and then one won't have any data and one will. And there's a reason why I'm specifically mentioning Michael Thorbjornsen, is that he is somebody in the 6Ks that I will be mentioning later that I am probably going to use a time or two this week. So I wanted to make sure I gave you his information. And now it won't be compared to everybody else in the field as in a ranking, but I do want to show you his statistics. That way you at least have that information. You can decide if you want to use him or not. I will spin out of the way here in a second, but you can see 4th at the Travelers last year. He did it all in putting. See if I can, yeah. So he gains 9.5 in putting at the Travelers last year. Of course, last week at the U.S. Open, he gained a little bit with his irons. 3/10, there you go. Gained 3/10 with his irons. He played at the RBC Canadian the week before that, so he's starting to get a few more starts on the PGA Tour. He has not performed well, but again, you know, the U.S. Open, the RBC Canadian, while it's not even a designated event, you had some premier players there. The Rocket Mortgage, probably his worst performance considering the strength of field that he went up against last year at the Rocket Mortgage. But take nothing away from Tony Finau, who won it. But 4th at the Travelers last year, and then he played the U.S. Open last year as well. So he is starting to accrue some data, and I wanted to make sure I showed you his data as the entry that is in Fantasy National does not have data from Michael Thorbjornsen. All right, with that, now we'll move to my mixed condition model that I have made for this week's Travelers. And it's going to look a little bit similar to what last year's mixed condition model was when I showed it this past Monday evening. But I've done enough that I think it's going to give us a pretty good idea whether last year was an anomaly in the sense that it was a really bad mixed condition model, or if this is more apropos for TPC River Highlands and the Travelers. All right, so to begin the mixed condition model, I went 5% in off the tee, and I did that on short courses, and I debated with myself if I was going to use any filter or if I was just going to go from 2023. I believe last year I used fairways gained when long rough. That did not work at all, or at least it wasn't very predictive. So I used off the tee on short courses, and when I went back and looked, your players like Russell Henley, Rory, players who have played the Travelers pretty well, even DJ, who is a bomber, had really good numbers off the tee on short courses. If anything, I think this percentage is a little light. I would argue that you probably should have 10% if you're going to change the amount of percentage in this. So if anything, I'm a little light in off the tee, because we saw throughout the week that off the tee is pretty important here at the Travelers. 5% in approach, same way. We have seen that the approach has been mitigated all week in importance. It is one of the lowest strokes gain approach totals by course on the PGA Tour. It's all about the putting here. And that's why you see, I'll come back to the around the green, 20% in bent and POA and putting. And if anything, I think this is a tad bit heavy. But I really wanted to emphasize that I think putting is going to be the main thing this week. So, as I mentioned, that if I think anything off the tee would be light, this would be heavy. I would not blame you one bit if you wanted to put 15% in the putting and then 10% in off the tee. But this is where I'm at with my mixed condition model. Again, emphasizing the putting since it's the highest strokes gained shot type here at the Travelers. Just be aware that players like Brendan Todd, Denny McCarthy, players of that nature who are just good putters are going to rise pretty significantly in my rankings because there's such an emphasis there. But at the same time, I did want to emphasize putting because players like Harris English, Kevin Kisner, Thorbjornsen, they have putt this surface extremely well. Max Homa is another player who won the Silverado, or has won the Fortinet, the Silverado, or at Silverado. He putts this surface well, so I really wanted to emphasize that. That's why it's 20%. And then lastly, for strokes gained, 10% long rough around the green is going to be a factor. These greens are small, and with the wind and the gusts, I think the around the green is going to pick up even more so. And I have really started to comfortably kind of default to using long rough around the green, that combination of metric and filter when it applies, especially for long rough, not difficult or anything like that. I've just really kind of liked where I've gone, or the results I've gotten from long rough filter using around the green. So 10% there. I mentioned throughout Monday's show that I was not comfortable using birdies gained. I thought about birdies are better, bogeys avoided. They were all kind of similar. So I went with opportunities, and I used that on short courses. This is something that I took straight from last year's mixed condition model. It wasn't the most predictive last year, so we'll see if last year was a bit of an anomaly or a fluke, or perhaps this is just not the right metric to use for TBC River Highlands, but I'm running it back with this same exact opportunities gained on short courses at 5%. 10% each in fairways and greens on short courses. And these are filters that, again, I debated with myself back and forth if I should use a filter, which filter I should use. In the end, kind of like off the tee, players like Russell Henley, who have played this event very well, Harris English, Patrick Cantlay, they have been, especially in terms of the greens in regulation, pretty darn elite on short courses for greens gained. So I felt pretty good with this one. This one's a bit more subjective, or a bit more up for debate, but I also liked the fact that I was matching fairways gained and off the tee. I'm just emphasizing the fairways gained players this week. And we saw throughout the week that the fairways gained was much more important than distance at the Travelers. So I do feel good about matching fairways gained and off the tees filters to short courses. If anything, this filter might be incorrect, but I do feel pretty good with the greens on short courses. And then finally, for the mixed condition model, par 3s, 4s, and 5s, pretty simple. Par 3s and par 5s, I have at 5%. Par 3s we've seen, even though there's the full allotment of 4 and it's only a par 70, I've only got it at 5%. They just generally don't seem to matter. Xander played them well last year, but he was really kind of an outlier. And the par 5s, even though they are the leading strokes gained by hole by par, there are only 2 par 5s here. So I still have my doubts as to how important they're going to be. And that could be a part of the mixed condition model that I am weak if I don't have enough weight in the par 5s. Instead, I've put a whole lot of weight, like I mentioned I was going to, in the par 4s, and especially the range of par 4s here at TBC River Highlands. Remember, 75%, 8 of your 12 par 4s on the scorecard measure to here. So I think it's going to be one of the biggest factors, if it's not putting, in who wins this week. And from Monday's show, when we went into the specific data for TBC River Highlands, we saw that 400 to 450 par 4s, they were double the importance of the 0 to 350, quadruple the importance of the 450 to 5. I mean, they are just the be-all, end-all here at TBC River Highlands. So that is a look at the mixed condition model. Hopefully I've explained where my thoughts were when I made this, how I'm feeling about it in general, where I think I might be weak, or some adjustments that I would recommend after having made it. But with that, let's go ahead and move to Microsoft Excel and the reveal of my rankings. And while we do that, I am going to explain to you that since last year's mixed condition model turned out to be really, really bad, I have decreased the percentage of weight that the FNGC rank, or the Pure Analytics Numbers ranking, has in my overall. Where did that weight go? It went into percent owned, and that's why, for example, we have somebody that is very, very lowly owned in the top 5, and particularly in the bottom half of the top 10. So I wanted to explain that before we get into it. My rankings for this week go as such. Number 1 is Rory McIlroy. Patrick Cantlay, number 2. Xander, the defending champion, number 3. Scotty Scheffler and Jason Day round out my top 5. Tommy Fleetwood, CT Pan, Sung Jae, Wyndham Clark, and John Rahm round out my top 10. And right off the bat, I will tell you that I don't think Jason Day is 5th, or I would not put him 5th if I were to just straight rank the players in the field. He is really skyrocketing in these rankings due to the fact that he is so unique per Fantasy National. And you see some of these other players like Wyndham Clark and Sung Jae, while they are 10th and 11th in the model by the numbers, they are still rising due to their low ownership. Jason Day has played the course well, so I don't think it's a terrible idea to think about Jason Day. But again, 3 weeks ago we were talking about injury with Jason Day, so I don't know where he is. He's really the main culprit of the the 4 unique players. I would not have Jason Day 5th, but he still rates 9th analytically. He's played Travelers well in the past 5 years. I don't hate it, but I wouldn't put him 5th. These other 3 we'll talk about, and there's one probably decent surprise, although he's been playing fairly well lately, and I'm heavy on such player. But there's a look at my top 10. Again, probably with the exception of maybe CT Pan and maybe Jason Day, not a whole lot of surprise here. Wyndham Clark coming off of his U.S. Open win. Sung Jae is always analytically rated out well. He's just not playing well at the moment. Tommy Fleetwood's been close several times now. Of course, most recently at the Canadian Open. Scotty, number 1 player in the world. Xander, defending champion, etc., etc. So probably not a lot to debate in terms of the players in the top 10. You can always debate the ordering. But I was pretty happy with how this came out, except for Jason Day being 5th. I would not have him that high. All right, let's sort on the price board and figure out where we want to go in terms of pivots and fades and that kind of deal. So in the 10Ks, or in the 5 digits, we have 5 players. Scotty Scheffler at 11.3, Rory at 10.9, John Rahm 10.8, Xander 10-4, and Patrick 10-2. Patrick Cantlay 10-2. You see all of the players, all 5 of these players are in the top 10 of my rankings, so there's no reason that you would want to full fade them just by the ranking. But with the U.S. Open being the exception, people seem to be back down on Rory. I don't understand. I don't understand. He is the most unique, at least per Fantasy National, most unique of these 10Ks. Now, that's probably contributing him to being number 1 in my rankings, but he's number 2 purely by the numbers. He has averaged a top 15 finish here in his 3 tries in the past 5 years. Top 10 at short par 4s. He actually putts this surface really, really well. Now, he has not hit a lot of fairways. That is the knock on Rory for this week. But if you're going to give me damn near half of the ownership on Rory than Patrick Cantlay, that's a pretty easy decision on my end. Xander, defending champion, I'm going to be using some Xander. I would expect him to be a whole lot more owned than 13.3%. But that's what at least the members of Fantasy National have him. He's put this surface extremely well. Of course, being the defending champion. Now, his struggle is these short par 4s. But in general, he plays par 4s well. He hits plenty of greens. Top 20 in opportunities. He's also really good on Pete Dye courses, for what that's worth as well. So I have no problem with Xander. Scheffler's putter was more cooperative at the U.S. Open, so I'm thinking a lot of times I've been going Rahm over Scheffler lately. This might be a different week. I actually might go Scheffler over Rahm for a couple of different reasons. I mean, they're pretty darn close in terms of their performance on the surface and putting. You see the around the green, Jon Rahm has not been good around the green, especially in long rough. Everything else is pretty darn similar across the 2 players. So in the 10Ks, I'm going to go Rory number 1. I don't understand a sub 10% Rory the way he is playing right now. Runner-up at the U.S. Open, top 10 the PGA Championship. Just don't understand why he is not getting a lot of love. He got some at the U.S. Open. I don't know why he's back down to where he was pre-U.S. Open. So give me Rory, number 1 in the 10Ks for me. I'm going to go Xander, number 2. I'm going to go Scotty Scheffler, number 3. I'll go Rahm 4th and Cantlay 5th. And I like Cantlay this week. You see, I mean, he's played very, very well here at the Travelers. I just don't like that ownership. I was off of him last week at the U.S. Open. He didn't play his best. I'm still a little bit off or wary of Patrick Cantlay, so I'll make him 5th in the 10Ks for me. So I'll go Rory, Xander, Scheffler, Rahm, and Cantlay in that order for the 10Ks. Moving to the 9s. Hovland, Finau, Colin Morikawa, Tommy Fleetwood, Wyndham Clark, Ricky Fowler, and Matt Fitzpatrick. Well, there are 2 players in here I am full fading, and one that I don't know what to do with. Now, the 2 players I'm full fading for a couple of different reasons between the 2, Wyndham Clark and Ricky Fowler. Wyndham Clark, I just think is going to have the hangover. I mean, the dude just won the U.S. Open. I don't think anybody would fault him if he came in and played a little bit lackluster. He's not played the Travelers particularly well either. Granted, he's a much improved player over the past year. I am not going to risk him having that hangover, that letdown, however you want to phrase it. Clearly talented, but somebody who's not shown decent success even at Travelers, that's just too much for me. I'll stay away. Ricky has been atrocious at the Travelers. I mean, absolutely atrocious. Not only that, he is not particularly great at this surface, even before he hit his struggles. So I don't want any part of Ricky. He's always a popular player as well, so I think he's going to be a little bit more owned than 9.5%. So I just don't want any part of these two. These two are full fades. If they play well, I will lose. The player I don't know what to do with is Colin Morikawa. He's not played particularly well here, but the metrics love him. Going back to last week, is his back healthy? I don't know. My lean is to fade Morikawa as well, especially considering his ownership, and let others take that risk if he's not 100% healthy. So if I'm fading 3 players in the 9Ks, well then I've got to use somebody, or I'm skipping this range entirely, seemingly. I'm going to tell you it's probably more of the latter. Considering when we get to the low 7s and the 6s, there are several players that I want to recommend to you, especially in the 6s. Victor Hovland, I think, is going to be fine. Again, that around the green number, his around the green game is getting better and better. He's not particularly played this surface well, though. I think Victor Hovland will be fine. That's a lot of ownership for him. The metrics aren't in love with him, but he has played the Travelers decently. Finau, I think, fits this course pretty darn well. He's never been great on this surface either, though. And if this were a truly difficult course or difficult tournament, I'd be much more on Matt Fitzpatrick. You see, he's putted this surface well. I think it might end up getting a bit more difficult with the gusty wind, so I'm a little bit higher on Fitzpatrick than what I thought I was going to be, but I was all in on Fitzpatrick for the U.S. Open. I'm lukewarm at best on Fitzpatrick. And a lot of that being because I like, 3 to 4 guys in the 10Ks. I'm not going to be able to play a whole lot in the 9s. So if I am in the 9s, look, Fleetwood is going to be very, very popular for good reason. He's playing very, very well. This is probably the one player I will gravitate towards in the 9Ks, accept the chalk, and find uniqueness elsewhere. Hovland, I think, will be fine, but he's really darn chalky for as much risk as you're taking with the around the green game, which is getting better, but still not up to par. And the putting's never been good on this surface. I don't like the course fit for Matt Fitzpatrick. Morikawa, I just don't. Is he healthy? How's his back? I just don't know. So if you have a strong feeling about it, one way or the other, use it. But that's my look at the 9Ks, and I'm pretty much off of the 9Ks, to be honest with you. Moving into the 8s, Max Homa has won on this surface this PGA Tour season at the Fortinet. He putts this surface well. He's good at the short par 4s. He has, a fair bit of time. He's pretty middling with around the green, fairways and greens on short courses, but his par 4 performances are elite. He's good off the tee. His irons are good. I don't understand a 5-6% Max Homa. I think Max Homa plays pretty darn well this week. So Rory and Homa, if those two players don't play well, I will lose. But I like the course fit here for Max Homa, even though the course value isn't all that great. The other side of that coin, I was pretty high on Justin Thomas, and I just don't know where his game is. I don't think he knows where his game is. He's really, really struggling right now. You see, the putter has not been good on the surface. Even JT and the irons, it's going to be rated as good, but JT generally is in the top 10 for irons. You see the par 3s aren't good at all. I just don't... Until JT shows some kind of life, I'll just stay away. I think this is the lowest Justin Thomas has ever been rated for me outside the top 100 for me. Sung Jae, again, getting boosted by the fact that he is low owned. Eventually, he's going to turn this around. He's way too talented of a player, just like Justin Thomas. But, I keep using him. He comes through one week. He doesn't come through the next. I'm not sure. You're playing Sung Jae for the uniqueness is what you're doing. Kind of the same with Jason Day at 5%, but Jason Day's got a lot more risk, as in I don't know how that bruised bone, I think it was, in his wrist or something to that effect for the Memorial, how it's been. I know he missed the cut at the U.S. Open. Hideki's getting a whole lot of love. I'm not there. I guess I can understand it, but I'm not there, considering he doesn't have any course value. Oh, sorry, I got an itch. Oh. Cameron Young, again, hadn't played this tournament. Very unique, so he's getting bumped in that regard. Look, I've tried to back Cameron Young, and it's backfired on me, so I'm shy on that. Probably shouldn't be. I should probably trust the analytics here, but I've backed him a couple times, and it's not worked out for me. Tagala, okay, maybe. Loves this surface. That's what I can tell you about Sahith Theegala. He loves this putting surface. But he hadn't played this course well. Analytically, it just still doesn't line up for me. But if you're as much into the putting as I have said I am, then really give Sahith Theegala a long look. I really like Tom Kim this week. This course reminds me a lot of Sedgefield. Short, par 70. Now, Sedgefield's easy. This is more average in terms of difficulty, but it's an approach. It's a wedge game. I think Tom Kim's going to be pretty darn good this week, so I'm going to be using some Tom Kim. Siwoo Kim's also pretty good, pretty fair in terms of price, ownership, a little high. Just like last week at the U.S. Open, I like the player, I don't like the ownership. So I've been going to Tom Kim instead of Siwoo Kim, but I think both are going to be pretty good this week. As you can see, Siwoo's rated much higher because he's got decent course value. Moving into the upper sevens, this is chalk I won't get away from. Just like Xander, who I think is going to be more than 13%. This is chalk I won't get away from. I love Russell Henley this week. I would not be too concerned with the putter on this surface. He's played this event very, very well. Top 5 in fairways, short courses. Around the green game is great, elite. More excellent than elite, but still really good. Number 2 in greens on short courses. Number 2 in opportunities on short courses. Give me all the Russell Henley. This is chalk that I will eat. Again, I've been off Connors for the past 3 weeks. I'm going to be off of him again for a lot of the same reasons. He does not like this surface. Not very good around the green. Actually, he doesn't hit a lot of fairways. This is a 65. He doesn't hit a lot of fairways, so at least on short courses, which is odd to say considering he piped it at the Canadian Open. But at least by the numbers here, he hadn't hit a lot of fairways. So I'm just not there, and 11.5% is still a little high. Instead, I'm gravitating to Harris English. I've talked about him seemingly all week. One of the first wagers I punched this week, Monday morning. Number 2 on the surface, 2021 champion here at the Travelers. Same reason I really like Denny McCarthy. I think it's just a matter of time before he wins because his irons are getting much, much better. We've talked all week how the par 4s are extremely important. He's top 10 in this field in in par 4s this calendar year. Now, the opportunities aren't great, but it's Denny McCarthy. He's a very good putter, so he doesn't need a lot of opportunities. The off the tee will have to be better this week. That's for sure. But again, coming off a second at the Memorial, a top 20 at the U.S. Open, he's in great form. I really like Denny McCarthy this week. I really want to like Minwoo Lee. We don't have anything on the putter, but I kind of want to like Minwoo Lee. He played so well at the U.S. Open. It's a gut feeling that I think Minwoo Lee plays pretty well this week, because there's not a whole lot here analytically that'll back it up. It's just kind of a gut feeling. Moving into the bottom half of the 7Ks, and a lot of players that I really, really like. If you're a big proponent of course history, take a long look at Brian Harmon, your strokes gained total leader the past 5 years here at TBC River Highlands. He is 4 for 5. He's missed one cut, and he's got 4 finishes inside the top 10. Loves TBC River Highlands. Seamus Power, anytime a course is short, anytime it's easy. Now, granted, TBC River Highlands isn't easy, but anytime the course is short, take a long look at Seamus Power. He likes the surface. Greens, good. Opportunities. It's just off your screen. It's 31st. And his win on this PGA Tour season came on what you probably wouldn't think is a good comparison course, but it kind of is if you think about the specifics of the course. His win at the Bermuda Championship. Short. Now, TBC River Highlands isn't necessarily coastal, but windy, elevated greens, very undulating greens. I like Seamus Power quite a bit this week. And at 3.5%, he's a third player that if he doesn't play well, I will lose. Elsewhere in the low sevens, Andrew Putnam. Again, anytime you're talking short courses, I would feel much better if off the tee didn't matter as much. Anytime off the tee doesn't particularly matter, really think about Andrew Putnam, but it's still a short course. You see the irons, top 40 in this field. It's very good. He hits plenty of greens. He's elite at finding fairways. I think Andrew Putnam's going to be pretty solid this week. Again, more so in the putting, or more, using that narrative, the putter. Take a long look at Brennan Todd. Brennan Todd is somebody that has played pretty well here. Sepp Straka, I think, is going to be really good this week. He's kind of my sleeper. This is the big, long wager, the triple-digit wager I have. I have a feeling on Sepp Straka, as he is pretty darn good on this surface. You see the short par 4s, pretty good as well. What you probably wouldn't realize, he is top 10 this calendar year in irons. So I really like Sepp Straka. The combination of irons and putting on this surface, I think it's going to be a good combination for Sepp Straka this week. Still not done in the low sevens. CT Pan, 7th in my rankings, and that is not a joke. I love CT Pan this week. He's actually the second triple-digit win wager that I've put in. No statistic is in the negatives. His worst is 65th, and that's opportunities. 65th is his lowest. That's his worst statistic. Now, the course value, he is only 1 for 5 at making the cut here at TBC River Highlands. This is where I am choosing to go with the analytics over the course performance, or the course history. Everything analytically lines up for CT Pan. Top 25 putter on this surface, good at short par 4s, good around the green, hits enough fairways. I love CT Pan this week. If he doesn't play well, it's like the 18th player that I'm going to lose, but I don't see any reason CT Pan doesn't play well. And we're going to run it back like we did last year. One of the few things I got right last year was JT Poston at the Travelers. We're going to run it back again. It's the same course. It's a little bit stronger of a field, sure, but you still had some elite players in the field last year at the Travelers. Still finished tied for second with Sahith. Loves the surface. Hits plenty of greens. He prefers short courses. Look at these metrics on short courses. 31st in fairways. 10th in greens. 19th in opportunities. 10th off the tee. Nothing outside the top 35 on short courses. JT Poston just loves short courses. That's what TPC River Highlands is. That's what John Deere is, where he defends next week. I'm all in on JT Poston as well. And you see 7.5, 2.5. A little bit further up here, Sepp Straka 6%, 4% from Brendan Todd. I am not worried about uniqueness this week because I've been gravitating to these players quite a bit. Last player I'll mention, Adams Vincent. Take a look at again. RSM's a short course. It can get windy there. Now those greens aren't necessarily as undulating, so it's not a great comparison course. But Vincent generally does play shorter courses well. As you see, you've got 27th in fairways when it's short, 5th in greens, just off your screen, 12th in opportunities, and 37th off the tee. So he's got lots of good metrics when it's short or on short courses. Take a look at Vincent. He's clearly like the 5th or 6th out of the 5 or 6 or however many that I mentioned, but I think it's worth a look. All right, let's go into the 6Ks very quickly because there's a handful of players here, probably about 4 or 5 that I want to mention that I think are going to be good plays. Starting off with Mark Hubbard. He's not going to be unique by any means, but top 10 on putting on this surface. He's also been top 15 in irons. So if I'm that high on Sepp Straka, I got to recommend Mark Hubbard for the same reason. However, he is very, very popular, so be aware of that. I think it's a very good play, but you're not going to get a whole lot of uniqueness if you're using Mark Hubbard, so you're going to have to find some uniqueness elsewhere. But I do think it's a good play. Elsewhere in the 6Ks, Michael Thorbjornsen, solo 4th last year, and that's one of the reasons why I showed you his player profile page in Fantasy National. I'm going to use Michael Thorbjornsen. He's getting a little bit, more experience on the PGA Tour. He's at least shown that he can compete at this course. I'll throw him into a lineup or two. I'm not going crazy with my exposure to Thorbjornsen. A couple more here. Chez Reavie, 2019 champion. All about the previous course history. If you're using Chez Reavie, kind of the inverse or the opposite of CT Pan, where CT Pan I am going all by the analytics because his course value is awful. Chez Reavie, the analytics aren't awful. They're just kind of so-so, but he has played this event very, very well. Again, 2019 champion. So if you're a big believer in prior course history, take a long look at Chez Reavie. He's also getting a little bit of love. 9.5% is pretty heavy for a 6K, just not as much as Mark Hubbard above him. 2 more here in the 6Ks. Kevin Yu at 6,600. The putting on the surface, not great. Yep. But that's a pretty small sample size for him. Short par 4s. He really likes them. Fairways. Greens, particularly on short courses. Loves them. Good at par 4s. And the biggest draw for Kevin Yu this week on a short course, number 2 in off the tee. In this field, this loaded field, number 2 off the tee on short courses. Kevin Yu played the fall portion of the schedule very, very well. And what are most of those courses? Most of those courses are short. Think the Zozo. The Fortinet isn't exactly long. Shriners isn't long. RSM. He loves short courses. So I'm going to be using a lot a lot more of Kevin Yu than I probably should. Now, the last time I said that, it worked out really well when I used Matt Wallace at the Memorial. So I'm hoping it repeats itself, but I'm going to have way too much exposure to Kevin Yu. I think it's going to be very, very good this week for Kevin Yu. Last player I do want to mention, if you're really, really needing some price savings, I actually don't hate Scott Stallings this week. You see the putting on the surface, the short game around the green, pretty good. He's going to have to be a lot better at the par fours. Yep, no debate there. It's all about the putter, around the green, and if he does indeed give himself as many opportunities as his ranking is showing, with as good of a putter as he is on this surface, I would not be surprised to see him have a good day or two and flirt with top 20. So if you're really needing some price savings, don't hate Scott Stallings. All right, that's a look at the price board and where I'm at with it. Let's start making some lineups. We'll start with tiers, so get your questions ready. I'll make tiers lineups, and then I will make some classic lineups, and then answer some questions as we try to figure out how we want to maneuver around the chalk this week. So for those players who play tiers, tier 1, you have Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, and Jon Rahm. Kind of the same deal as in classic. If Rory is indeed the unique option in tier 1, give me Rory. I think Scheffler's fine. I'm actually lowest on Rahm this week in tier 1. So I'll go Rory, then Scheffler. If you think Rory's going to be more popular or, at least close to Scheffler in ownership, then I would go Scheffler. But if Rory truly is as unique as he seems to be, at least for classic lineups, give me Rory. Tier 2, Xander, Patrick Cantlay, Victor Hovland, Tony Finau, and Tommy Fleetwood. I think Tommy Fleetwood's a fine play. I think Xander Schauffele's the best play in Tier 2. For me, it's between those two. Give me the defending champion in Xander. Tier 3, we go Collin Morikawa, Wyndham Clark, Ricky Fowler, Matt Fitzpatrick, and Justin Thomas. Oh gosh, I don't like anything here. I don't know where Justin Thomas's game is, so I can't recommend it. If you have a strong feeling, use it. Same with Collin Morikawa. I can't recommend it because I don't know how his back is. I don't like Wyndham Clark. I really do think he has a letdown from... Yeah, JT is a mess right now. You're right, P. He is. I think Wyndham Clark has a letdown from the U.S. Open. I don't want any part of Ricky. He has never played the Travelers well. Almost by default, it's Matt Fitzpatrick. If you don't think Wyndham Clark has the letdown, take Wyndham Clark. I don't like anything here. Ugh. Give me Wyndham Clark just in case he doesn't have the letdown. I don't like it at all. It's either Clark or Fitzpatrick. 1A and 1... Really, it's like 84A and 84B. I don't like the options. There's no 1A or 1B. It's like 84A and 84B. Blah. Tier 4. Max Homa, Sung Jae, Hideki, Cam Young, Jason Day, Sahith Theegala, and Tom Kim. Ooh. Now, this is an interesting tier for me. I do think Max Homa is going to play pretty well, and he appears to be unique. But I have a very strong gut feeling that Tom Kim is going to play very well too. Give me Max Homa. If the tiers ownerships are anything like Classic, give me Max Homa. Tom Kim, I think, is going to be pretty good this week. That's hard to pass. But give me Max Homa in Tier 4. Tier 5, Shane Lowry, Siwoo Kim, Adam Scott, Russell Henley, Keegan Bradley, Corey Connors, and Harris English. For me, it's a very, very clear two-way race between English and Henley. I will go with Russell Henley, even though he is the more popular choice. English is, if you need uniqueness, I really like Harris English. But give me Russell Henley. I think Siwoo Kim is a worthy look at 3 in this tier, but he's a pretty clear third behind those 2. It's gonna be, I'll go Henley, then English, and then Siwoo Kim. Lastly, tier 6. Looks like I need to get my head out of the way. Tier 6, CT Pan, JT Poston, Nate Lashley, Sam Bennett, Adams Vinson, Billy Horschel, and Lucas Herbert. Damn it. It's between these two. It's between these two. Oh, man. I like both of those players a whole lot. But I think I'm going to go with CT Pan. But don't be surprised on JT Poston either. But I'll go CT Pan. All right, there's a look at tiers contests and tiers lineups. Let's start making some classic lineups, figure out how we want to maneuver around the chalk that is out there. And, of course, get your questions ready. I'd be more than happy to answer those as I'm making lineups. Our fellow contestants, they seem to be going with a Patrick Cantley start and, choose one between Victor, Colin Morikawa, and Tommy Fleetwood. I'll use Fleetwood only because he is a 10th of a percentage more popular than, Hovland, and 2/10 over Morikawa. But really, these 3 are kind of interchangeable at the moment. So it goes Cantley and Fleetwood, and then we saw Mark Hubbard at 6,900. He's getting a lot of love here. So that is the bottom, where that's their boundary. And I need to fix this formula very quickly. Apologies. This is W and column X. There we go. Apologies. All right, so we have 3 players in the, perhaps mid-8s, and then maneuver our way down through the price board. Austin Eckroat's getting a lot of love also at 7,300. So it looks like our fellow contestants are going there. Now we have 8,200 per, basically. Russell Henley and 85. I think I just missed Hideki. Damn it. Fleetwood's also the cheapest. Son of a bitch. Look, this is going to be $100 over, but it's the most chalky I can make this. It's $100 over, but, maybe Eckroat turns into... boy, no one else really in the low 7s is getting a lot of love. Henley could be Connors. Matsuyama could be Sahith or Tom Kim. Cantley could be Hovland. But there's a look at a fairly popular build or lineup, I think, where your contestants are going somewhere in the 5 digits, probably in the lower end. Cantley, maybe Xander. Going to a 9 with Fleetwood. A mid to low 8. Henley, Eckroat, Hubbard. 15%, pretty darn heavy in terms of ownership and potential for duplication. If our fellow contestants are actually fitting Scotty Scheffler, who was the other one that was in the 6Ks that was getting like 9%? Ches Reavie. We'll go Ches Reavie. This won't be as high of projected ownership. Shoot, I got to move that over. Apologies. Just because Ches is at 9.5, not 13 like Mark Hubbard. But I'm trying to save them a little bit of money. Looks like our fellow contestants, they're going with Scheffler, probably coming all the way down to maybe Tom Kim. They could maybe squeeze in somebody in there like a Hideki, but looks like Tom Kim and Siwoo Kim, Russell Henley. Oh yeah, 8,100. That's Tom Kim again. Corey Connors. So maybe maybe not a full-on stars and scrubs, but dropping down to Shez Reavie or even Mark Hubbard. They can still fit Mark Hubbard into this, and going Scheffler, and then dropping all the way into the low 8s and high 7s to fill out the rest of their lineup. That is another potential possibility. The last one, chalky lineup. If our fellow contestants are building a balanced lineup, I'll try to do it with Victor. Don't know if I'll be able to because all of these guys are within 1/10 of each other. Victor, Morikawa, Fleetwood. I think this is going to be a little... Yeah, that's going to be too expensive. So let's go Morikawa, Fleetwood. And, of course, you know, if Victor's in here, substitute Victor in for one of these two. But then they'll go Hideki, Russell Henley. We'll throw... Looks like... Austin Eckroat is the bottom of this. And 75, yeah, Brian Harman's getting a little bit. 14.5. So that could be a balanced look potential of a lot of a duplicated lineup there. All right, so how I've been approaching this, I mentioned a lot of players in the low 7s and 6s. So that probably gives you an indicator of what kind of lineups I'm building. So I'll start with the other type of lineup. Let's see if I can't try to find you a balanced build working around this. I think I could probably do it. Tony Finau, again, I think will work. I think it'll be fine. I'm not in love with it, but just to emphasize the uniqueness here, Tony Finau, I love Max Homa this week. I think he's going to play extremely well. If you're comfortable with Sung Jae, if you're comfortable with Jason Day, those are two pretty solid choices, I think. Let's see. I mean, even Sahith Theegala at 10%, I'm not in love with it, but I like Sahith Theegala more than Jason Day. At least I know Theegala's healthy. Lowry, I'm much more interested in using when it's very difficult. So I don't hate Theegala. 10% is not going to ruin the uniqueness of a lineup. Denny McCarthy, moving into the high 7s. I really like Denny McCarthy in that putter this week. Harris English as well. Actually, in fact, let me... did I type over somebody? I did. Sahith. This is Harris English. Then Denny. And you're still left with 7,800. I would, kind of tiptoe around and perhaps find or leave a little bit of money on the table. Maybe Minwoo Lee. Again, that's a gut feeling. I mean, you're at 8% here, and you're not even approaching the low 7s. You might not have the ceiling of the upper end of the price board like a Scheffler or Rory, but Finau can win. Homa's won 3 to 4 times this season. I think it's just a matter of time before Denny McCarthy. I think Minwoo Lee's a worthy speculation. Harris English loves the Travelers. Won this past couple, 2 years ago. 8%. This is not going to be a duplicated lineup if you were to go this route. So there's a look at a potential balanced build that you could maneuver around. And you still have a couple $100 left here. For example, like if you're just big on Russell Henley, I mean, you can take the most projected owned player and still be at that magic 10% number. So that lineup has a lot of potential for uniqueness there. But where I've been going, what I've been doing, because I showed you several names in the 6Ks. I'm going to start with a Kevin Yu, who I'm really, really high on. And I don't think I'm going to go double 6Ks, although there are, few players that I wouldn't mind. Like I mentioned, Kevin, you can think about a Chez Reavie, Michael Thorbjornsen, but in the low sevens, I mean, CT Pan. I'm, very, very, very high on. Brendan Todd, Sepp Straka. I don't even think we need to go that low for this one. But, I mean, you see, I've got 3 players that I can go into the, upper 9s and 10Ks. So, for me, I've been going like Rory and Xander. That leaves me 8,000, which is, Siwoo, who I will use. I'd prefer it to be Tom Kim, but I'll use a Siwoo, a Russell Henley, Harris English, Denny McCarthy. We've used him a bunch, but I mean, you're still so unique. Even using a Russell Henley and a Xander, although I think he's going to be more than 13.5%, but you're not even touching 10% yet. The fact that you can, if you're willing to come down into a Kevin Yu and use some of these low sevens, well, I'm really, really high on. Another way you can go, Scotty. Let's go Scotty. Let's just get real greedy. Scotty and Rom. And let's not even try to go all the way down to Stallings. Kevin Yu was the second cheapest. Chez Reavie at 67. We can go Michael Thorbjornsen, who I'll throw in a time or two, based off last year here at the Travelers. Thorbjornsen, couple of guys at 7K. I mean, JT Poston, somebody that I like. You can even take a look at Sam Bennett, the rookie, fresh off of Texas A&M. CP, thanks for jumping in chat. I'll always appreciate it. Good luck this week and weekend with the Travelers. Thanks for jumping into chat. Much appreciated. So, you can go like a JT Poston. Leaves us 7,071. These are the kind of lineups that I've been building. I'm just confident in finding the players down here that are going to perform. Sam Bennett. You can take a look at Adams Vincent even. But I'll throw Sam Bennett into this. That leaves us 71. That is Straka, I knew. Brendan Todd. We can throw Brendan Todd into this. 6.5%. Not anywhere approaching the 10% magic number. And you're getting Scotty Scheffler, John Rahm, Brendan Todd, who was top 5 in 2020. Sam Bennett, who's been really darn good in his short time on the PGA Tour. He kind of falls off on the weekends, but, I mean, he's been making cuts. JT Poston, who finished 2nd here last year. Thorbjornsen finished 4th here last year. These are the kind of lineups that I have been building this week for the Travelers. So I'll stick around for a couple minutes if there are any questions. Be more than happy to answer that for anyone. And a quick reminder that when the show is over, I will post my betting card to Twitter. So if you want to see the wagers that I've made this week, go over to Twitter. You can find that. And while you're over there, really, really consider giving Gabe a follow. Subscribe to his article, The Fringe. I will be over in his Substack chat answering more DFS, and him and I will be going back and forth with more DFS talk. So I highly recommend you check out Gabe's Twitter, give him a follow, and subscribe to his article. It's a really, really good read to prep for the week. But that looks like it's going to do it for the Travelers DFS Tactics show. Thanks to P for jumping into chat. Thanks to everyone else out there who tunes in, watches, listens, supports the channel by liking the videos, commenting, subscribing. It's much appreciated. In the comments or on social media throughout the week and weekend, let me know how your lineups are doing. Let me know how wagers are going. Would love to be able to shout out members of the community who have success next Sunday night for the next week's initial research show. Thanks for all the support. Love what I do, looking at statistics, sports statistics, trying to win a little bit of money in the process. For all the wagers you have made this week for the Travelers Championship, for all the DFS contests you've entered this week for the Travelers Championship, for this weekend and every weekend, may all your bets be profitable.